Okay, hi guys, my name is Shannon Beveridge. Welcome back to X's and O's, a podcast where we talk about queer relationships and sex. And today I actually cannot believe you're here because I knew you were coming I guess a few months ago I got told that we would come on the show. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you're fucking kidding me. Like, you are so iconic. I cannot believe. And I'm so nervous and starstruck being around you.
No, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
Oh my God, you're amazing. And I cannot believe everything you've accomplished. You are the most unique person I think I've ever had on this podcast.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
By far. And most you just have done so much. I can't believe you just released a song. You're going on tour in February.
Yes.
How do you sleep?
Yes, I sleep a lot. I sleep 12 hours a day.
No way.
Which is a lot.
How?
Because I think it's really important to bed rot also.
Yeah.
I like to bed rot, and I love that this is in a bed right now because this is giving me ideas of maybe I need another bedroom.
Yeah.
With a round bed.
To brainstorm
and just lay there. So LeBron James, when he's training, to gear up for the season, he sleeps 12 hours a day.
No way.
And I think that is so amazing. So he knows how to maximize his body's potential through sleep. And people always sort of pay all this attention to how can we combat aging and how can we maximize our potential as human beings in our bodies. But sleep is often overlooked.
That honestly makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I feel like I have been lucky to sleep more than a lot of my friends who went straight into corporate America or traditional jobs because I graduated college and started doing social media full time, and I feel like I also am sleeping about 12 hours.
It's getting really good.
Yeah.
It's really, you get actually more done than you would if you were just trying to make all those hours count, or if you had a traditional schedule, a 9 to 5. People that have that with a commute and everything, I think it's really hard to figure out your creative life.
Yeah, totally.
And maximize your creative potential.
Totally. Do you feel is there a time in the day that you feel most productive? Because I feel in the same vein of that sleep is important, I grew up thinking that being productive meant that you got up early and you got work done early. But then only recently have I started to allow myself the permission to get stuff done at night, when I'm most creative.
Right. I think the question there for me is what is productivity anyway? What does productivity mean? Does it mean that I'm constantly formulating ideas to take to market, or am I living my happiest life?
Yeah.
Am I investing in my own joy and what makes me feel good? So yeah, I think this idea of productivity, I had to really kind of fix my relationship to productivity because so much of it was about education and working and everything I'm doing. If it's not painful, it's not productive, or if it's not painful, it's not worth. And I think, so I had to sort of re-examine that. So art, I think, is really about figuring out ways to enjoy your life and then tell others about how you managed it. And so I don't know, I have a weird relationship with this idea of productivity and what we should be doing with our lives as opposed to what life is for.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. And I feel that's something you probably never figure out the answer to and are constantly reevaluating as time goes on, right?
Yeah, because I think society looks towards art and art is so many things. Art is social media. Art is content creation. Art is music and comedy and whatever. Everything is art. But to me, it's when does it stop becoming something that you're making to share to other people to get approval to prove it that you're worth being alive?
Yeah.
Or when are you just doing it to celebrate the fact that you're alive? So yeah, I have very philosophical ideas about productivity but if the short answer to productivity, I get the most done laying in bed and I get the most done. I have a stack of writing next to my bed and I'll lean over and do it. And then that's really productive. For some reason, I'm really productive in dreams too. A lot of ideas come to me in dreams because I spend so much time in dreams. Like there's like a relationship that I have to sleep that is kind of not really like, because I sleep so much, it's a little bit different than other people. I spend a lot of time just laying there. So I have a lot of things that I get to do while I'm laying there.
Because like of the 12 hours, are all 12 actually you in REM sleep? Or is it just like, I will be in this bed for 12 hours?
Yeah. Most of it is just like laying there, like about to be in sleep, or like I think I'm sleeping, but I'm not sure. Or is it sleeping really? Or am I just laying here? And then I also have all my cats on me.
As you
and
should.
My dog. So then I'm like, I pinned to the bed kind of like a butterfly to a card. So I can't move anyway, even if I wanted to. And so it's really like, all of that time isn't spent down. It's just resting my head, resting my body, resting my eyes. Maybe it's almost like a very relaxed meditation.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also a less forced form of meditation, because I feel like so many people struggle with sitting down and meditating, and then you're like, okay, now I just have racing thoughts, and I feel and then you feel like you're not doing a good job. Like there's so much about like even that feels like unproductive because you're not doing the meditation the right way. It's like, what is the right way anyway?
There's no right way. It's just like what meditation is just stop doing other stuff.
You've had like I was watching you on a podcast. I really cannot believe you were the most interesting person I've ever listened to speaking about anything. But you were saying that that you were like, you had like a sobriety journey and then you did like psilocybin and then you were like, you felt like you were tripping for like, not necessarily tripping, but that lasted like 12 years or something.
Yeah, I still think I'm high from it. Look, no, I have had like long bouts of sobriety, long bouts of like not sobriety. And for me, actually, sobriety is now my permanent life choice. And at least I hope it's permanent. I would like to make it permanent. But I think that substances have their place. But for me, it's really not conducive to the way that I live or the way that my mind works. It doesn't help. But yeah, like I think drugs have a purpose and drugs have, spiritual meaning and spiritual efficacy, but I can't do them the way that people do them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are you dating? Does sleeping 12 hours a day affect your dating life?
Well, yeah, I think I do like the idea of like a napping with people. I think that's really fun. It does affect my dating life because then there's a lot of time that is just like, what do you do in bed? Like I think a lot of people don't do that. And you have to like, if you're dating, you have to make a lot of time for the other person. I want to date in my life now in a way that's adult. So like my dating is not inclusive of like an end point. Like I don't want to get married. I don't want to live with anybody else. I don't want to be exclusive with anybody else.
Okay.
So my dating life is really about casual to maybe more serious situationships over time.
I see.
That's kind of like the way that I've got my dating life set up. And so I date men and women and also non-binary and trans people. And I find it's harder when you're older too, because people just have a sense of like permanency in dating. They want to date towards a goal of marriage. They want to date in essence to cement that sort of foundation of the house that you're going to live in. And for me, it's so satisfying to live alone. I can't even really imagine, like I have spent so much of my life in relationship, and only in the last like 7 or 8 years have I realized, oh, it's never worked. Every relationship I've been, regardless of who it's with, whether it's a man or a woman or trans person or a non-binary person, it's always been a disaster.
Really?
It's always been heartbreak, terrible, abusive, terrifying, like not satisfying. And then the whole time I was just like trying to get out. So I think it's just not suitable for me.
I see. That's so interesting. It's interesting that you said you're like dating like an adult now. So were you dating like not an adult before?
Well, I was dating with this fantasy of I'm going to find that forever person.
Okay.
And that we're going to live together forever happily ever after. But then everybody I was with was so hard to be with.
Yeah.
For like forever. It just seemed like, you know, the idea of till death do us part, I think was like, you're basically going to kill me. Like,
Oh my God.
Like, you know, because it was just so unbearable to be with them. And, it, you know, for all different kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
Not necessarily it was a bad match. Sometimes it was a good match, but we just weren't supposed to live together.
Yeah.
Like we had everything going well, but we just, the only part of it is like maybe not live so close together. So I don't know. I think this is what works for me now.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy in this space of it.
That's interesting too. You feel like there was they were all bad.
All bad.
Types of people. It didn't matter.
It didn't matter who it was. It was just always like, it was also the escalation too of like, so you meet somebody, you go on some dates, and then they're like, then you're kind of, then you only can spend the weekend with them. And then you're moving in together, and then you don't have a social life that doesn't include them. And then it's like, you just become part of a couple, and then you lose your autonomy within that. And then you just start to feel the drudgery of that. There's a drudgery that comes with prescribed monogamy as it exists. And I love that it works for people. For me, it's just never worked.
Like, yeah, totally. Like, it's like you don't appreciate that person anymore because then you just feel kind of like you're entangled with each other.
Yeah, and then it's not sexy. Like, there's no frisson.
So true.
Like, I just think this is where lesbian bed death comes from, which is just like where you become so close. And it happens like with women, it's so hard because we become so close. And then when you're in a woman loving women relationship, like you're like an island away from the patriarchy. You're like this, like, we don't need men. And there's something so powerful and beautiful in that. But the closeness, you get so close and you become this utopia, and then it somehow weirdly inverts and stops being sexy.
Yeah, it is weird.
It's so frustrating.
It is really frustrating. And because, I mean, like lesbian bed death, it's like stereotypes do exist because something has happened enough times where people see like, oh, there's a pattern there, right? I am like so interested to meet a long-term lesbian couple that has great sex. Like, I don't feel like I've met them yet, you know?
I think it's got to exist, but I think it does exist when the partners are emotionally open to the idea of having variety in the way that they are romancing. I think if you have like more of a sense of whatever it is, either inviting other practices in your love life, whether that's BDSM or any kind of different modality of sex, or even tantra or whatever that is, expanding the idea outside of the marital bed.
Yeah.
But I think part of it is that we just become so enveloped in our own utopia of being women together that we lose sight of the tension that I think is necessary for good sex.
Yeah. I think it's really easy in lesbian relationships to become like lose a lot of independence. Just, I think in all relationships that happens, and like you become, like you were saying, like the drudgery of like, okay, we have to be together all the time. But then in lesbian relationships, there's like a joy about that at the beginning. So you get so excited and you're like, oh my God, we're together all the time. We're together all the time. And then it's like the timeline is expedited.
Yeah, because we love so hard.
Yeah, and so quick, and like we can become intimate really fast. Like,
which is beautiful. And because we have a shorthand when it's women, we have a connection that is undeniable. And it is, again, like protection from the patriarchy. Here's like one area of the world where patriarchy is not involved. And it's so exciting. But then it just becomes totally enmeshed, and it's too bad.
It's too bad.
It's really too bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to find those lesbians out there who have not experienced lesbian bed death and who have relationships going in the double digits. Mm-hmm. You know, that would be cool.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely exist.
They are out there.
Yeah. It's just, I just haven't had them on my podcast yet, I think is the problem.
I just remember like this one real core memory for me when I was like really, really young. And I was working at this, it was a lesbian BDSM collective, and I was selling sex toys at sex parties. And I had been selling these toys, and two women came, and one was on a leash. And I looked at them, and it was my second grade teacher and my third grade teacher, two women that I had known from like my grade school. And I was like, holy shit. So I was like, this is amazing. And I didn't want to say, oh, you know, I was in your class when I was.
Yeah, you didn't want to take them out of that.
I didn't want to take them out of their, like, you know, and they weren't actually actively, they weren't actually actively having sex or anything at the party, but they were just, one was carrying the other one or holding the other one on a leash and just walking her through the party. And it was like, wow, they may have been together this whole time.
That is wild.
So it'd been like a 12-year span since I'd seen them when I was like 8 years old. So it was so like, oh, this is this, or did they meet in the school and then they just, you know? But it was like this great thing of like, oh my God, how
and we
cool.
will never know. I need the answers to those questions.
I need to know, but I'm so glad. So it made me think, oh, it's possible. Yeah, that this is possible, and also how great.
Yeah, so great. If you could find the right balance of, I feel like in any relationship, which I, like you, have struggled to find like the right balance in staying in a relationship. Like, but I've also been a serial monogamous. So
yeah.
Do you feel like do you think like getting older makes that easier to let go of, like in a way of the pressure of, that you should get married and that you should be together, like that dream, like getting older, do you think that dream, you start to see it as kind of like a forced thing that not even, I mean, even just watching people get divorced, like straight people, everyone, you know, it's like, okay, what is the real dream that we're all chasing?
Well, it's like when you sort of see that marriage, and especially like heteronormative, like that sort of like
nuclear family.
Yeah, that cycle, the trad wife or whatever thing. It's just a dream they're selling to women to offset their power, to divert them from real change, to divert them from actually like realizing that revolution exists and we can have it and we can make it.
Yeah.
But when to divert our attention, they sort of fill us with these ideas that are like kind of fantasy life about wedding planning.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be our day.
Yeah.
I would rather every day be my day.
So true.
You know?
And motherhood as well, like the whole thing, because then you are living so much for someone else.
Yeah, you exist primarily not only to bear another person, but you are actually responsible for them for the rest of your life. And, you know, of course that's wonderful for people who want it, but I've just never... I don't want that.
You don't want it.
I don't want it. I don't think I mean, I'm also very much a very selfish person. And so I know that I would be a terrible mother. Like I would be such a narcissistic mother. Like I think it would be horrible.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to inflict my life on other people. I mean, I have a lot of cats. I have a dog and they're all I can handle.
Mm-hmm. I think it's like I think it's a unique thing to recognize something like that in yourself, because I think so many women probably feel the same way that you do and ignore it, you know?
Yeah, because of what society expects. And especially now with the incoming administration and Project 2025 and this weird return to traditional values, it's like so scary because a lot of women are going to be like emotionally trafficked into this lifestyle that they don't necessarily really want, but we're sort of brainwashed into.
All these things happen at the same time, right? Where all these women are learning about compulsory heteronormative,
compet.
Like so many women are learning about that, but it's like, and at the same time, like how this pendulum is swinging in both ways. There has to be so much cognitive dissonance for straight American women.
It's hard. It's really hard. I think also men are so lacking. Men have never been so lacking as they are now. they fall so short.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was young in the 90s, at least the men, it was hot to be a feminist. Like Kurt Cobain would wear a dress on stage, and it was like hot to be a male artist and be a feminist and be like there for women's causes and like fighting for women's rights, you know? And men nowadays who say boldly, your body, my choice.
Yeah.
And think that you're going to get fucked. Like, you know what? I mean, you're so lacking. The men are young men nowadays, it's a grave disappointment because they have so much at their disposal with technology and all of the knowledge that's available to you. And then you choose this. Like, it's just, it is really a nightmare. So I have so much sympathy for young women who have to put up with these guys who are just lacking with their broccoli haircuts and their jorts, or I like jorts. I would say board shorts. But whatever it is, their podcasts and their.
Oh my God. Well, now they're going back to like a suit and tie almost, you know, it feels like they're like cosplaying something.
They're cosplaying real masculinity, which real masculinity is in awe of femininity, in awe of womanhood, in awe of the power of women, and does everything they can to support women. And they bow down to women. That's what they're supposed to do. But they just don't get it. They don't understand.
No, some men are acting like it's gay to love their wife.
I know, it's so weird.
Like, how did we get this far off?
It is a really strange, like stunted form of sexuality too, where you're, it's like the denial of the mother, the denial of the divine feminine in order to sort of gain some kind of autonomy or false power. But yeah, it's so sickening. So yeah, it's hard for women out there now because the men are they're the worst.
Well, and at least we are seeing that like women are not getting married as young and like things are people have to change at some point, but it does feel like things swing back and forth and back and forth. And I'm sure you've seen that in queerness, even in your own queerness, and like the community, I feel like gets very queer. And then we become very straight passing people become like the coolest queer people, and then the coolest queer people are like the most odd queer people, and like it goes back and forth and back and forth.
It's always all over the place, you know, kind of depending on the time. I think what is cool is that we have more of a range of visibility, especially in queer art, like in music in particular. Like this year has been really great with Chappell Roan, who I love, who everybody loves, but who is a very openly lesbian, not just queer, but like lesbian, like women loving women, like a scissor, sister, like a lesbian, like not even like, you know, playing with the bisexual, not even playing with I love like the rise of the lesbian. Like to me, it's so fucking cool. Like her and Renee Rapp and, you know, all of this kind of very women loving women kind of conversation. I think that's really cool. So there's more diversity on that range, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna change. It's gotta change. It's gotta change. But yeah, lesbians, it's the year for the lesbians.
Lesbians had a good year, especially ending with a high note with Wicked.
Oh my God.
It was very good.
Queer media.
Yeah, all queer media is very exciting.
All queer media is very exciting. Okay, one thing I did think that was really interesting is you've also dabbled with like polyamory in the past. Is that something you would do now, or are you more so into having monogamous situationships, but like many?
I think polyamory is really hard work. I think polyamory definitely works if everybody is very mature, everybody is working on themselves, and they're all like working towards this common goal of keeping the polycule happy. Like, but the fact is, these like group relationships are so exhausting emotionally to kind of deal with other people's jealousy, other people's like inability to face it. There's so many different things. There's so many aspects to it. I think it can work, but I don't want to expend that energy emotionally anymore. Also, I'm in bed for too long now.
You're napping for too long.
It's too long.
Yeah.
But it's something that a really evolved, emotionally mature person can do with another evolved, emotionally mature person. But how many people like that are there?
Very few.
Not that many.
Very few. Yeah. I think it's hard to find like an honest polyamorous or like relationship where everyone's needs are being met and like all the communication is there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's impossible, but I do think you don't see it that often. I also, every time I think of a like polyamorous relationship, especially with 3 people, I think about every friend group I've ever been in where there's 3 best friends.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I can't possibly imagine that dynamic does not mirror that dynamic where it's like, sometimes it seems like 2 people are kikiing a little bit harder than the extra one, you know?
Yeah. It's very like, it's so hard to manage expectations on all accounts. The only way I've seen it work, and I think it's actually with just kind of a queer polycule, is when there's a high femme sort of primary person, and then she has a lot of sort of worshipful, like, usually like sort of non-binary or trans men who are just like there to serve her. That's where I've seen it work.
Like
is
that.
when there's like it's got to be a high femme focus, and then she has a lot of butch or non-binary or trans sort of male identified people working underneath her, like sort of the queen bee, and then
it's the true masculinity that you were talking about before. Like people worshiping. It's like that's actual masks, like being masked.
That's when it works.
Yeah.
That's when you find it. Oh, like this is actually a perfectly well-rounded society that actually is totally powerful and everybody's happy.
Yeah.
That's where I see it happening.
That makes so much sense. Okay. So when did you come out? And you've not come out, but like when did you even like start exploring your own queerness?
Well, I grew up in a gay bookstore in the 70s. So my parents owned a gay bookstore and everybody was gay that worked there. And
how did that happen? Like, how did your parents buy that?
They just wanted to like have a literary life. My dad's a writer and he's still a writer. And he, so sort of like this dream of having a bookstore like City Lights in San Francisco, which City Lights was the bookstore for the beatniks like Jack Kerouac and all those guys, and they would have like book readings and like poetry readings and book signings at the store. And so my dad wanted a store like that. And one came up for sale in 1978 in San Francisco. And it was a gay bookstore, but it was like a very popular place. They would have poetry readings and they would have like people come and sign books. When I was there, Armistead Mopan, who wrote Tales of the City, would do book signings there.
Wow.
Stuff like that. Like,
so it was a community as well as...
hub.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my dad bought it. And so I grew up there. And I was always very queer as a kid, as a child, very queer. And then I think as a child, like if I was growing up today, I would definitely be a they, them. Like I would definitely be like, you know, in that sort of non-binary, gender non-conforming life. I just didn't know about it then. We didn't know. And I think initially thought I was a lesbian. And so it was also, everybody just assumed that I was a lesbian. And that's still the case. Everybody just assumes that I'm a lesbian. But I do love men. Like I have a very deep connection. I have a very deep heterosexual side, which people find really off-putting. Everybody thinks it's weird. No, I love it. Like I think it's really important to honor. So I'm a traditionally, I think, identified bisexual, but I think also bisexuality is not the correct term because it sort of denotes that there's a binary, and I don't think there's a binary. I think gender is infinite, and there's so many different ways to identify that there's no binary. It's not too...
Yeah, I think people traditionally hear bisexual and think too.
Yeah.
When in reality, I think many bisexual people are and do identify also as pansexual, but it's just kind of like bisexual has become, it's more common, just like people know the word and you don't have to explain it as much, I guess. And then there's something nice to not have to explain everything about yourself all the time to everyone.
Yeah.
But that's so, I can't believe, were your parents just accepting of queer people? Or
they were really accepting of gay people. They are not accepting of bisexuality. They think that's weird.
Really?
So they think that when somebody's bisexual, that they're lying.
Okay.
And that they're somehow not in their truth and they don't know what they're doing. So my parents really, they're like, oh, no. They're like, no. They don't. They're happy if I have a partner. They're really unhappy right now because I don't want to live with anybody. I don't want to get married. And I don't want to have a partner. So that's what's really upsetting them, because to their mind, if you're not partnered, you're not complete.
Oh, interesting.
So it's a very hard thing for them to accept that part.
Okay. I feel like a lot of people also from that generation have confusion around bisexuality. But I feel like the way I always explain it is everything's like on a bell curve kind of, right? So like if you take a test, like they always do, that's how they curve a test, right? So like most people are going to get somewhere in the middle, and a few people will do really well and a few people will do really bad.
Yeah.
That's bisexuality.
Right. It's like different shades of where you are towards one or the other.
Yeah.
And it can also shift the way that you change as a person and you grow.
Yeah, 100%.
And the way that you like kind of lean into self-knowledge, and also your body changes. So I think it really depends.
Yeah. There's so much more fluidity. Do you see a change in the queer community to being more accepting of fluidity and of people changing labels? Because I feel like even when I was first coming out, there's this huge fear of people like lesbians not ever wanting to date a man because then they lied about being a lesbian, and that lesbians kind of would turn their back on a woman who identified as a lesbian and then left the community for a man.
Yeah. Well, it's like a has-been.
Yeah.
You're like, how could you, like,
a betrayal?
You're going backwards. And I think it's like that's a valid argument. Like, it's like totally, because I think men are so shitty. So it's totally, it totally makes sense. But also, like, it's just sometimes what happens. Like, it's also, to me, it's more common for women to turn their back on men at a certain age and become lesbians. Like, I think it's far more of a thing when you have the late in life lesbian who finally admits that they're like attracted to women. That to me is actually more of a likely outcome for most heterosexual women than the other way.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think lately there is more inclusion. I think that is also because of the deeper understanding of gender, a deeper understanding of trans people, a deeper understanding of people who identify as non-binary or gender non-conforming.
Yeah.
Because that's something that we didn't even have language for a long time.
Yeah. When you were younger, do you feel like you had like a lot of non-binary friends now looking back that just didn't identify as that?
Yeah, totally. Because we just didn't have the language.
Yeah.
Like the importance of the pronoun. It's really awful that the right has weaponized the idea of pronouns, because using they them is such a powerful tool in understanding the diversity of who we are, and that it's being so attacked as being frivolous and crazy by the right is so wrong, because it's like you don't even get it. Like, this is so insignificant to you, but this is so significant to us.
Yeah,
it's like such a waste of an, I wish they would attack something else. I don't want them to attack anything, but I wish they would attack something else, because this is just an important idea to get behind.
Totally. It's just like fear mongering. My thinking is truly that as gay people are being more accepted, and it's way harder to get everyone on board that gay people are weird and bad. Like, they're like, okay, what do we do next? Like, who is the new person? Because people are kind of like, I guess people can be gay. Now they're like, okay, well, people can't be trans.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's the evolution, the natural evolution from one thing to the next of them being like, okay, now this is too weird.
Yeah. It's like they want to police us in ways that are just arbitrary, that don't affect them in any way, which is so it's a distraction from the real problems, which are guns, the economy, inequality overall. There's so many issues that we need to face, other than whether somebody wants to identify as a certain gender or not. It's very crazy.
Oh, I 100% agree.
It's such a small percentage in the populace. but it means so much to them. It means so much to somebody who's transitioning. It means so much to somebody who is like in that stage of trying to figure out what they're trying to do. So it's a very painful time. You know, I think also in the queer community, there's a lot of like, we would be accepted if it wasn't for those they thems, which is like very frustrating too. It's like, no, we all have to participate in this. We can't separate ourselves from the rest of our community because we want somehow acceptance.
Yep.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. It's like internalized homophobia also. And just being like, and this idea of wanting to be normal, I think at the end of the day, the thing that so many queer people dating want is to feel normal, is to feel like they are dating like everyone else.
Yeah.
And because at the end of the day, most of us are.
We are.
Because even like, I guess things that people would be less understanding of or are more unique would be like the polyamory of it all and stuff. But that's not exclusive to queer people.
No, that happens everywhere.
Yeah.
That happens in all different kinds of sexuality. And I think there's more of a history of it with queerness because we've just been more open about our relationship styles.
Yeah.
Because we have to talk about our sexuality so much. That kind of sexuality has existed everywhere.
Yeah. So true. It's also crazy, the binary and non-binary of it all. If you look back, like, non-binary people have existed in history forever and ever, and then we like changed it. You know, it's not like this is a new concept because people are understanding queerness. It's like this is an innate thing that people have felt for years and years and years, and in some cultures was even celebrated.
Right.
And then we have Christianity and religion coming through and just stripping people of culture.
Yeah, or that there's I think it's just the implementation of, hey, like, why don't you ask somebody their pronouns? Like, that is what enrages the right so much. Like, it's like, why are you enraged by this?
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Like, unless you identify as, like, something different than male or female, why do you care?
Yeah, why do you care? I got into a fight one Christmas, like a huge fight with this kid. It was like a family friend who was bitching about having to have his pronouns in his, like, his email bio, like the little bottom thing. And I was like, why do you care though? And we got into this thing back and forth where I just kept going, but why do you care? And he kept going and going until I cried, of course, because I'm like,
but it's like you want to cry because it's like, why do they care? Why do they care? Like, what is it? Why don't you just don't say anything then.
Yeah.
You don't have to put your pronouns on your Zoom picture or whatever. You don't have to do that. Like, you don't have to, if somebody's asking you your pronouns, it's out of respect because they don't want to assume. It doesn't mean anything about you.
Yeah.
Other than the person asking is just trying to get to know more about you. Like, it has nothing to do with an assumption that you might not be a man.
Yeah. Totally.
Which I think that's why they get bothered is if they're like, I'm signaling masculinity so much. Is it not enough? Yeah. That's not why anybody would ask your pronouns.
Yeah. It's so true. It all comes down to like this fear of, it's just like homophobia and
that I'm not enough to be a man. I'm not enough man. For whatever that is. It's again another signal that men these days are just lacking.
Yeah. They just need to like accept being a little bit more gay.
They should all just get something in their butt.
One time. I think they'd all be a little bit happier, right?
And they want to get pegged.
Loosen up, literally.
I hate pegging. That's worse.
The word or the action of?
Both.
Yeah.
I mean, pegging, the word doesn't really bother me, but having to do it. I love wearing a strap. Yeah. But I hate pegging. There's something about it.
Really?
I do love a strap. I love a strap.
When you say pegging, just for
men. Yes. So when you have to put on a strap to fuck a man.
Okay. Yeah.
It makes me so mad. Like if I strap for a woman, it's so, of course, like I love it. Yeah. But if I have to strap for a man, it's like such.
Like are you not into it, or is it
I'm
just
not
like
into it?
Okay.
I think it's stupid. I'm like, this is dumb, and also I'm like, okay, it doesn't make me feel like dominant or assertive like that. Like if I put a strap on for a woman, I feel toppy and it's fun. I'm not a top anyway, so I rarely do it. It's just kind of funny when I do it. But I think if I have to peg a man, I just want to laugh.
Well, and I could see how for some woman that would be, it would feel empowering, especially maybe if you were only ever pegging men, you know, because then you don't even have the other experience of how it could feel powerful to like sleep with a woman but you don't want to. So then you're like, okay, I don't know. Obviously, I've never slept with a man at all, so I've definitely never pegged one.
It's so stupid. It's so funny and stupid. I mean, of course, there's ways. I think there's ways to dominate men that are really great, but that way I think is just so dumb. I feel so dumb doing it, but maybe that's my own baggage.
Yeah, well, who knows? We may never know. But you speaking of. You like dabbled with BDSM stuff, right? Yeah. Like you were a dominatrix for a time?
Yeah, I'm not a good dominatrix. I'm like terrible. I'm like so not observant enough to be a good dominatrix. Also, I'm sexually like inclined the other way. Like I'm really good submissive and I'm a really good like very into it. Very good bottom, but I'm not a good top. And so that's where I fall short. I'm lacking as a dominatrix because a dominatrix is, she is like a goddess, but also a therapist and also kind of a maternal figure. But as like all dominatrixes that very, very successful dominatrixes have a real complexity sexually and compassionately towards another person that I don't have. I'm way too selfish.
Okay. It does feel like it is like you have to be very in tune but I know very little, so I don't really know anything.
You have to be in tune and you have to be very observant and caring and also to know what somebody needs. I just am never good at that.
Yeah. What do you think makes a good bottom?
Greedy, like excited about everything, enthusiastic. A good bottom is just willing to do whatever it takes to please the top.
Yeah.
Which I think that is really, really important. So those are all good qualities to have as a bottom, but a top needs more. A top needs to also get satisfaction from that. So it's a hard thing.
It is an interesting little like balance to walk. Do you feel that you've dated more tops then?
Yes.
Have you ever made like not the mistake, but the mistake of dating a bottom?
Yes. Yes. I've had some terrible bottom experiences with people who were bottoms, and it was just like, it's just sort of so limp and lackluster, and it just falls away. It doesn't work out. I need tops in my life.
Yeah. I think that's so fair. I think the whole top and bottom thing, like when I started YouTube, because I've been doing YouTube for like 10 years. And I remember early days, everyone would be like, who's the top, who's the bottom, who's the top, who's the bottom. And I just was young and didn't really even know that much about sexuality at all. And in my mind, I was like, well, that's like a gay male thing. Like top and bottom is just about receiving and giving. And then as I've gotten older, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not about getting older, about getting wiser, I guess. But I'm like, tops and bottoms exist in heteronormative relationships also.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Completely. But I don't think that straight people know that.
Yeah, they don't really get it. They don't really see it as that. But it exists.
Yeah.
It exists.
I shouldn't say straight people, but I should say like some straight people don't know that.
Well, yeah, some people do, but some people really lean into it. And then some people are totally clueless. But it is a dynamic. The power dynamic exists in all relationships.
Yeah, totally. And like sexually too. I feel like the top and bottom has become straight people's way of asking lesbian relationships, who's the girl and who's the boy. Like if they're not quite sure, they're like, okay, I know gay people are saying top and bottom, so like I can get away with, you know what I mean? They're like, this is the PC way to say,
right,
who's the boy and who's the girl.
Like who calls the shots.
Yeah. Which is just, it's so interesting because that's so not real. Like there really is not a boy and a girl, even in boy and girl relationships. I guess it's just like masc and femme. And
it just simplifies it too much.
Yeah.
There's just so much more going on in a woman loving woman relationship than that just makes it too simplified or puts it in sort of heteronormative terms.
Yeah. If you could see yourself having a future partner, which like if that were to happen, do you envision that person being a certain gender, or are you so far removed from like really thinking of yourself partnered forever?
I mean, if I do, it would probably be somebody like Chase Strangio.
Who's that?
Who is the trans man lawyer for the ACLU who's fighting the Supreme Court last week?
Yes, cool.
To defend the family in Tennessee who's trying to get their trans daughter, gender affirming care. He's so hot.
Yeah.
He's so good.
Now that you say, I'm like, yeah, I've seen him on TikTok.
Like the trans man lawyer. I need a trans man lawyer who's arguing for trans rights in front of the Supreme Court. That to me is, that's marriage material.
Okay. Why do I feel like you could date him if you wanted?
I mean, I've been writing some DMs, but the thing is that, I have like idealized, these guys out there who's like, oh yeah, that's the kind of guy I would marry. Or, it sort of depends. I would love to be the high femme with like a legion.
Yeah. So I was like, is that a dream that you were explaining earlier?
Yeah, that's my sort of society that I think would work. If I have like the high femme within a wonderful, worshipful group of masked butch.
Yeah. I think we can make that happen.
Yeah, that to me would be the dream. But I think I love Chase. He's just, I love what he's doing. He's so gorgeous too. Like, he just makes me feel good. So somebody like that, but also you never know what they're going to be like in person.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't. How are you dating? Like, if you do go on dates right now, are you weaponizing the power of the DM?
No. Well, a little bit. I have, but there's apps.
Yeah.
I'm on the apps. I'm also in a sort of a network of people that I have dated over time. Like, so I've had some situationships that have been gone on for a long time that I will return to.
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of how.
Yeah, that makes sense. The apps of it all.
The apps of it all. I've been using apps in different forms, like even before apps, like when it was just the internet. Yeah. And like dating. So that I've used it a lot.
The OkCupid eras of dating.
Before even.
Really?
So yeah. So I'm just kind of familiar with that. And but yeah, apps are, I think, helpful. Also, you can get very you're seeing the same people over and over.
Yeah.
Which is also weird.
I've never really been on the apps because I am a serial monogamous. So I've kind of avoided that situation. So curious, now that I'm single, I don't know what I need to stay single. So I'm going to sleep for 12 hours.
Yeah, give it some time. Sleep 12 hours a day. Give it a little bit of a minute, and then just see. But then, that the universe will always bring people into your life to teach you these lessons. And
so true.
Yeah.
I know. I think there is something so important about the relationship to yourself. And I feel like I struggle with not being very selfish. So when I am alone, I'm like, okay, I'm not getting my needs aren't met by meeting my own needs. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like, it almost does come down to that top energy of I feel fulfilled when I'm fulfilling someone else. Right. So I need to find a way to fulfill friendships and
and other things that are feeding your soul and your heart that may not necessarily include other romantic relationships.
Yeah, 100%. You love TikTok, I feel like.
I do.
Yeah. I was looking at your TikTok and I was like, okay, you're really on this app in the right way.
Yeah, I love it. There's a lot of onion content though. I'm so hard on onion TikTok.
Really?
Like the boiled onion, like onion boil, and then the green onion that you roll in cream cheese and bacon.
I've seen that too.
I'm like, why am I on onion talk?
Okay, recently the algorithm, I swear to God, changed where it's very reactive. You have to watch it. Before, you would kind of have to engage with a few of the same videos for it to change your algorithm like that. Now, if I like one video, 2 videos later, it's going to be the same kind of video.
Yeah.
It's it changes really quickly. I mean, we're going to potentially lose it, which is...
I know, it's weird.
Going to be crazy. I guess we'll be on Reels.
I think there'll be another... there's Lemonade. I don't know.
Yeah.
There'll be something else. They'll because remember, I don't know if you remember Vine. Vine was such a big...
course.
thing, and then it just sort of went away.
I know. It's crazy that Vine went away and we didn't really replace it though.
No.
We tried with Instagram, and then Instagram had like 6-second videos for a second,
Yeah.
remember?
Yeah.
Okay, your story about Olivia Newton-John telling you to stop smoking and then you stopped smoking, is that really...
That's really true. She was so beautiful, and so she was like, just stop today. She's just like such a beautiful person, and she would just like show up sometimes. Like, you know, I would be doing a comedy show, and she'd come up in the audience. She's like, "Oh, I just came for a laugh."
Oh.
And I would see her, like, if I would go to Australia, I would just run into her in like a bar. Like, hi. Like, she's just really Chia. Like, she was really this ethereal, beautiful, magical kind of creature. It was a real honor to know her. And you know, whether she was or not a queer icon, I mean, I think she had lesbian vibes.
She's definitely like one of my first crushes.
Yeah,
without
like
even really knowing it. And you know what I think too? A lot of that is because John Travolta is a little bit
So
queer.
gay.
Yeah.
Like, she was such his beard.
Yeah.
Like
in Greece, like he's kind of feminine too in that character with the doing their hair and looking in the mirrors all the time.
Lavender marriage.
Yeah.
I think because of she had short hair.
Yeah.
So there was something about it, like that she was just so like lesbian coded, but like pretty femme with short hair. Mm-hmm. And that, you know, like in the physical video, she is doing this sort of thing with all these guys who at the end of the video, the resolution is that they're all gay.
Yeah.
That's the joke of the video. And so then that must sort of infer that she is as well.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just very sly. But yeah, she's lovely. I miss her.
Yeah, that the thought of you just running into her at a bar is like feels so not real.
It's odd, but she would just be like, "Oh, hello.
That's so cute.
What are you doing here?" Pretty.
Do you feel like, and obviously not to out anyone, but is it true that so many people in Hollywood are gayer than they're letting us know?
I think so, but I think also it was definitely more so a long time ago. Like, I'm from like Hollywood. I came to Hollywood in 1991. So being around, I've been around a lot of mostly guys who just never came out.
Yeah.
And also never reached the heights of the career that they would have wanted, maybe because of that, because there was something that they were sort of hiding or suppressing, you know, less so with women, mostly with men. Do
you feel because you were so out, like, did you get hit on by any women that maybe were more like exploratory than the public ever knew, you know? Like,
I don't know, because like, you know, I mean, yeah, I think sometimes, but like also I'm such a threat because I'm so open. I might talk about them. You know, like I'm such a loose cannon.
There's comedian aspect of it.
Yeah, there's no way to sort of be sure that I wouldn't guard their secret. And I'm like very respectful of anybody who wants to live that way. You know, because nobody is like responsible for your gayness. Like, if you want to be gay out there, it's hard to be gay out there.
It is hard to be gay out there.
You know, we don't owe people our comfort. You know, like it's like, you know, people want to be closeted. It sucks, but that's sort of the truth of what they want to live. It's kind of like people, if you're an artist too, can sense the falseness. So then you are sort of compromising your own power.
Yeah, that's so true. Do you feel like you even came out, or were you kind of like just always a little bit queer?
I think I'm still always a little bit queer. I'm not even sure of like ever coming out. And then I'm also kind of like, am I even out? I guess so. Because I'm like, I'm trying to just explain my situation at the best of my ability. But I feel also I'm really not that gay.
Really?
But also very gay.
I feel like you're really gay.
I'm super gay, but I also love dick, but in a gay way. So they think that I'm probably really gay, but it's also, to me, it's just the experience of being in this body.
Yeah. I mean, growing up, like the same thing about the Olivia Newton-John of it all, I feel when I was young, watching media, because we didn't have a lot of explicit queerness, anyone who felt a little queer to me, I was just like a little more interested in without even really understanding why that was,
Just drawn to it.
Yeah, just like being like, oh, I like the way that person moves even would be something that I would be picking up on. And you were one of those people.
Oh, good.
So I feel like there's a queerness to you that is inherent.
That's good.
Yeah. And also your tattoos are making you're pretty gay too.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That's definitely a signifier.
Yeah. I love that you say I like dick, but in a gay way.
Yeah.
That's real.
It's totally real.
People might, not everyone is evolved enough to understand how real that is. Do you know what I mean? Okay. Last question for you is I saw that you said in general, do you feel like you're, I have to figure out a way to ask questions without so many filler words. Something is wrong with my brain. Okay. Do you feel like your sex drive has changed?
Yes. Because of the shift in my hormones. So now I'm on a hormone replacement therapy, which actually is in flux because we may lose it all with Project 2025.
Yeah.
Because they're regulating hormone use by anybody.
Because is your hormone use even gender? Is it gender affirming care?
It's gender affirming care.
Okay.
And it's really, something that's helped me a lot because I totally lost my sex drive through menopause. And so now I'm on a cocktail of lots of different hormones, both male and female, to balance it out. And so now I've got this sort of new lease on life, and which is great. But yeah, those things that may be taken away, with this sort of rise of Christian nationalism, whatever.
Which is crazy.
But yeah, my sex drive has really waned over time. I think menopause really caused a huge shift in the way that I sort of had a relationship with my body. But now that I've gotten back into sort of hormonal treatments, it's really enhanced it a lot. So it made me more desiring, more active, more interested. And so it's really cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. I feel like I've never heard of, I've had like a similar, my mom had breast cancer and then she was on a hormone suppressant kind of thing because it's like hormones create the cancer cells. And so she experienced like a interesting thing with her sex drive too, which is, it's just interesting that this hormone situation impacts everyone in ways that the right isn't even thinking about.
Right.
Like, that has nothing to do with transness even all the time. But anyway.
Well, they just want us to have tools to make our lives easier.
Why?
Which is just because they just don't want women to be happy.
You're so right. You're so right. Do you feel like that hormone therapy that you've been on, has it changed who you're attracted to?
I don't think it's changed who I'm attracted to, but I think it's changed the willingness of me to pursue what I want.
I see.
Because I do have to do a bit of pursuing because I am an older, kind of forceful woman. So people just assume that I'm busy or that I'm not interested. So if I want something or if I want somebody, I have to really make an effort to make that known.
Yeah, which as a bottom, it's not
hard.
It's not organically happening for you.
So it's like I have to be a very bossy bottom about it.
That's bossy bottom. That makes sense. Is there anything else we should talk about?
Yes. I have a song that came out called Lucky Gift, which is a song that I wrote actually right in the beginning of the pandemic. And I'm excited to put it out. Finally, my album is out on Valentine's Day.
Oh.
But it's the song is really, it's about how love isn't just for the beautiful and young. It's for everyone. And it's about falling in love in a very unexpected way. And I'm really grateful that I got to write it. And so I'm so happy that it's out. And it's gay pop in the spirit of Chaperone and Tegan and Sarah.
Yeah.
Who are my old
feels
friends.
Very 90s inspired also.
Yes.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
I wanted to have like a 90s like pop sensibility brought in there. And so I really love the song, and I really love that my music is getting more out there. It's weird when you are known as a comedian and then you do music and then people assume that it's comedy music, which I've done some of too. But this is actually just my very serious.
Yeah, it's like earnest.
Yeah, earnest and
album.
real. Yes.
I feel like we just don't expect comedians to do anything earnest, really. It's like
No.
there has to be a punchline somewhere here.
And I appreciate that, and I want to do that, but there's also a place for different kinds of expression. So this album is that.
Yeah. And is the whole album like around love, or?
It's around love. It's around loss. It's my best friend died in 2018. So there's a lot of songs about her and my relationships with her. And then there's a song about Robin Williams, who I was really impacted by his life and his death. Mm-hmm. And so I put together an outreach for people experiencing homelessness when he died called Be Robin. And we would steal electricity and play these concerts in homeless encampments all over San Francisco. It was really cool. And we would feed everybody, and it was really a magical thing to do these shows because Robin was a big advocate for the homeless. And so there's a song that I wrote during that period of playing these shows that we would play on the street. And it's called Funny Man. It's all about him. And it's this very like complicated suite of different sort of memories and feelings about him. So that's a big focal point of the album, which I'm really grateful for. But yeah, lots of really beautiful songs. And I'm so proud that it'll be out soon.
I'm so happy for you. That sounds amazing.
Thank you.
When Robin Williams passed away, I felt like my dad died.
Yeah, I think everybody felt that. Everybody felt this loss that we didn't ask the funny man how he was doing. Mm-hmm. Like it's really, it still devastates people. Mm-hmm. I think they people don't really even talk about it anymore because it's too devastating.
It was so sad, yeah.
Like this trauma that collectively us as a society lost such a great artist and didn't know how to process it. And so kind of ignore it.
Yeah.
But so the song I think helped me heal around him. But yeah, it was really this collective trauma that we still haven't unpacked.
Yeah. And I mean, I hope, if anything, his legacy also has like shined so much light on the fact that we should check in on even the happiest seeming people. And it seems like that's what the song is about.
Yeah.
But I do feel like we didn't know that really as a society as much until that kind of happened. I feel like everyone was like, wait, wow. Because people know that who experience something like that in their own personal life. Like so many people that we lose in that way, people are like, wait, he was the like light of the room or whatever. But not everyone has a personal experience with loss like that. And so when we collectively felt it as like a nation, as the world, I feel like everyone was like, oh my gosh. Like everyone is experiencing depression, and
it's so intense.
Yeah. Well, you guys, I cannot believe that this just happened. I am so honored again that you came on my show. I'm like, truly, there's not enough words. You're such a huge role model, and I can't wait to see everything you do. And I can't wait for your album to come out. Everybody listen to it. And you're also going on tour. And so all of that information will be in the description below. And yeah, follow Margaret on TikTok before it goes away because you're so funny.
Oh, thank you.